Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Behind the Cape. I'm Data Superhero Keith Belanger, and I'm joined today by fellow Data Superhero Satish. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Keith, and thank you for having me here.
Oh, no, happy to have you. So, I think today we're going to talk a little bit about access policies. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you have in store for us today?
Sure. Hope my screen is visible.
You want me to share your screen? I can do that right
Yeah.
now. Sure. Great. Go ahead.
So I'm a senior AI data architect at Infocepts. It's a company based out of India. So I'm a data superhero. It's my first time data superhero in 2024, and I'm leading the Hyderabad user group chapter here. And I have been an active community leader, and I'm also a technical blogger. You can find my blogs over on Medium with the name Snowflake Wiki. So this is a brief, and I have extensive experience in cloud migrations, and I have extensively worked on data warehousing, and right now exploring the Gen AI capabilities.
Great. Great. So what do you have for us today, Satish? What are we gonna be talking about today?
So we are going to talk about access policies and how easy is it to implement via Snowflake. So I'm going to run through a different access policies that Snowflake is providing, and you would be very happy to know how easy is it to implement on Snowflake.
Great. Look forward to seeing what you got. Here we go.
So, having a quick overview on the unified cloud, cross cloud governance. So, we should know who is accessing the data, and we should know where is our data and what is our data about. That is knowing about your data and who is accessing it. Then, next thing would be how to protect the data, how we can protect the data. Our main focus today would be on protecting our data. Once you protect the data, we will be easily able to connect with different ecosystems, like sharing it via secure sharing, or doing a data clean room, or sharing it in the marketplace. So our focus today would be on how easy you can protect your data. We'll
Great.
also talk about bit about object tagging, and how you can protect your data using object tagging as well.
Nice. Oftentimes, many people think about loading the data, but putting that governance and control on getting that data out, so you don't put any data at risk. That's very important.
True, true. Now, Snowflake has classified, it gives you different protection at different levels. Okay, so we'll run through a couple of them. One is row access policy. So in row access policy, we get data protected at a row level. So we can filter unauthorized rows at a query during the query runtime. And to do this, we use a mapping table for authorization. The best thing about these policies is you create a policy once, and you can apply across multiple tables within your enterprise. Next thing is the dynamic data masking, which is at a column level. So again, this masking happens during the query runtime. You can have a centralized policy management. As all policies, you can create one policy and apply it to multiple columns across the tables at your enterprise level.
And what's great
So
about this is that you're not physically changing the data, correct? It's just
correct.
the display. Yeah, great.
It's just the display. Whether you want to completely mask the entire column, or partially mask, or if some row, or you can authorize any particular role to see the entire data.
Great.
Next thing is, in extension to this dynamic data masking at a column level, you can also apply a conditional masking. On based on the condition, you can specify how the data has to be masked. Again, this is at a column level. Next thing is the projection policy. Okay. Yeah, projection policy is, you don't want to project the column itself. You don't want someone to even query the column. So in that case, you want to constrain the column from projection. We use this policy. If anyone querying this column in particular, they will get an error saying that the column is restricted. This is a projection policy.
So if you're using an existing query that somebody has and it has a column you're not able to use, does the query just error out?
Yes, you get an
Okay,
error saying that the following columns are restricted by the
gotcha,
projection policy.
gotcha.
So again, you may have to contact admin to give you access if you're authorized, or else you have to remove those columns from your select statement.
Gotcha.
Next thing is to protect the data at a grain or at a grain level. You have an aggregation policies. What it gives is it gives a protection against certain individual record or a group of records. You can specify what is the group on which you want to apply this policy, and if the output is going to be below or equal to that group, you will not have an appropriate, or you will get an error saying that there is an aggregation policy violation. Basically, this policy we use it to protect the data at a granular level, so you can only query it at certain groups. So especially we use it at a salary. Okay, no one will be able to find your monthly salary if there is an aggregation policy. And when you group it, yes, you can get an aggregated salary, but they will not be able to determine what exactly is the salary.
Great. Yep, that makes sense.
And all these policies we can apply using a tax. Okay, we will talk about how you can specify our, anyway we are maintaining our data using a tax. So once you maintain the data using a tax, you can apply this masking policy based on the tax.
Gotcha.
We'll see that during the hands-on.
Great. Nice.
I'm going to stop the screen share.
Okay.
Let me go ahead and share the Snowflake.
Okay. Perfect.
You should be able to see my Snowflake.
Yep, we see your snowflake. Perfect.
Okay, let us see whatever I have said over the slides. Let us see how easy is it to implement in Snowflake. So I'm going to go ahead and create a database called security. I'm going to create a warehouse called demo warehouse. I'm creating a table called customer sales. I have a spend ID, spend amount, customer name, customer ID, SSN, passport, phone number, region ID, and region. Let me go ahead and insert the data, and let us analyze this data a bit. I'm going ahead, inserting the data. Once we query the data, I have a minimal records, 6 records for easy demonstration. If we see the data,
Yep.
we have a spend ID, we have a spend amount, a sample customer names, customer ID, SSN, passport, phone number, and this data is of different regions. So the regions we are considering is North America, Asia, and Europe. So if we understand this data, there are a couple of PII information like SSN, passport, and phone number. All this is a dummy data for our demonstration. And you may also have data across different geographies. So let us apply, or let us try to apply the access policies on this data. To do that, I'm going to create first a different roles. I'm going to create multiple roles. I'm calling R1 access, R2 access, R3 access, global access, and super access. So let me go ahead and create. If they're already existing, I'm just going to replace them. Let me go ahead and create these roles. Let me go ahead and grant usage on the objects to the public, so that all the roles will have access to the objects what we created. Let me also grant select on the table. No. Once I granted select to the public, every role would be able to see the data. Example. Now, in order to or demonstrate this, let me assign these roles to myself. So my current user name is SF demo. Let me assign or grant the roles to the current user so that I will be able to switch between the roles from this accounts itself instead of me creating new user accounts. Mm,
Change your hats.
correct. As you rightly put it, I would be easily able to change my hat over here. So now once I granted access or granted roles to the current user, now you would be able to see I am able to or I am able to see the other roles that I created. Example, if I go to R1 access, I still have access to this warehouse. Let me go ahead and uh, query the table. I will still have access to this table. So to that matter, because I have given access to public, everyone within the Snowflake account will have access to this information. So when we apply this RBAC or role-based access control, you give grants at a object level. But when you grant an access at an object level to a specific role, they would be able to see the entire data. Let's say we have granted select access to a public. Anyone with a public or anyone within this account would have access to the entire information. Now, the first governance I want to apply is at a row level. I want my customers specific to the region accessing the data of that region alone. I don't want them to access a data of different regions. So coming to this role-based access control, we can do it via a mapping table or a reference table. I should have a reference table. Now I wanted to restrict the data at a region level. So I'm creating a mapping table with region ID and which role should have access to that region. So let me go ahead and create this table and I'm specifying because in a different role. Let me do this with an account admin. Let me go ahead and create a mapping table. Once I created a mapping table, now I am the one or who, as part of an organization, you are the one who is going to determine which role should have access to which region level data. So for reference, I am taking R1 access should have access to only region 1 data, R2 access to region 2 data, R3 access to region 3 data. And I have another two roles called global and super access, which these roles are going to have access on all the regions. So let me go ahead and populate this data in the mapping table. Once I have this mapping table, very simple, we are going to create an access policy, row access policy. I'm giving a name to the row access policy. I'm calling this region level access. And I'm going to specify a query. Select star from the mapping table where region ID is with what we'll be filtering and the role should and it will be filtering on the current role if it is part of the mapping table or not. So the input is going to be a column and we are going to specify the data type of the column and it returns a boolean. We'll understand more about this query once I explain or once I complete this action. So let's say I created this row access policy. Now a policy once you create, you can apply to any table within your Snowflake account. So now I want to apply this policy on a customer sales table and I'm adding this row access policy, region level access to the column region ID. Once you alter the table, now whenever someone is querying this customer sales table, there is a access policy in place and this region ID would become an input column. Let us see how it works. As soon as I apply my row access policy, go to, let's say if I'm going to, even as an account admin, I would not have access to the data. If I go ahead and query it on an account admin, I will not be able to see the data.
Nice.
Very simple reason, just because account admin role is not part of the mapping table. Let
Nice.
us test if other roles or whatever is it working according to our inputs what we have keyed into the mapping table. Our understanding is once I logged in as a R1 access role, I should be only able to see the region 1 data. I'm only able to see region 1 data. Once I log into R2 with R2 access, I should be able to see only region 2 data. I'm able to see only region 2 data. If I'm logging with R3 access, I should be able to see only region 3 data. Now I have granted all the regions access to global access and super access. So if I'm logging in as a global access, I should be able to see whole of the information what I have in the table. It all works based on what r- like how you have mapped or what is that you have keyed in your reference table. Again, if I go into account admin or any other role, even previously I've shown you with public role, you are able to see whole of the data. Now we will not be able to see any data,
Nice.
though there is a you have granted a select access to the role public, still we are not able to see the data.
Nice.
And the best thing is you can dynamically enforce this row access policy, and you can also drop this row access policy. To drop this row access policy with the account that I created this row access policy, I'm going to drop it again. Now see, once I dropped in, even account admin will be able to go ahead and see the entire information.
Yep.
Is it very simple? It's very, very simple. And imagine we can apply this to any table wherever we have the region or a region level information. It can be any column. In any table, we would be able to apply this row access policy.
So it's very important organizations have a good, row access policy strategy, right? And what how they want to do this. Yep.
Correct. So next thing would be imagine, or I just wanted to key in a point that traditionally most of the organizations do via views. They create multiple views with filter conditions restricting the data at a row level. And after certain point of time, managing these views will be will go out of control. You end up creating n number of views. So this applying access at a row level, row access policy should be your enterprise solution.
Yep.
Coming to the same on the same lines, for to restrict the column level access, most of the organizations or most of the people will end up creating views where they ignore or where they not allow certain columns. Again, managing multiple views will become cumbersome, and enterprise solution for managing the data at a column level or security at a column level, we go with this masking policies. So let us talk about a masking policy. Similar to row access policy, you can create a masking policy called I'm creating a masking policy on passport, where I'm saying if current role is super access, then show the value. If it is a global access, I'm using a regular expression to partially mask the value. For any other role, I'm completely masking. Let me go ahead and create this masking policy. Similarly, you can create masking policies on multiple columns. I can also go ahead and create it on phone number. Only super access only if super access role will have access to the phone number, and rest of all the roles will have partial or partial access to the phone number. Let me also create this masking policy. Now all you have to do is alter the table, modify the columns, and uh, set this masking policies. So I have, let me set it on passport and on phone number. Once you have set it, now as an account admin, if I'm querying, I will be able to see whole of the data because I removed the row access policy. but I am not able to see any passport information, and I am only able to see the last four digits of a phone number. Your masking policies or security at a column level is in force. If I go to any other, let's say even if I go to R1 access, I should be able to see the similar information. If I go to global access, where I'm not giving access or complete access, or I'm only giving a partial access to passport and partial access to phone number. If I'm going to super access, only super access will be able to see the entire information. So you are restricting the information to the roles that are needed to see the information.
Nice. Yeah.
Again,
It, yeah, and these days with security breaches, it's very important to make sure, and this is a pretty easy way to control how data is being seen and leveraged in your organization.
correct. And even these masking policies or row access policies we can apply when we are doing a data share as well, two different accounts.
Oh, nice.
So, and the best thing is you can apply multiple policies together. Let's say, let me go ahead and apply row access policy. Let me enforce row access policy as well. So I'm again going ahead, altering the table and enforcing the row access policy. Once you enforce the row access policy, now the account admin will not be able to see any information. If you are able to, if you are accessing via R1 access, only region 1 data will be available, that too master data.
Nice.
And if I go ahead with global access, they would be global access role will be able to see whole of the data, but the data is masked. Only super access, based on our understanding, will have complete control or complete access to the data.
Yep.
So let me go ahead and remove this masking policy. You can dynamically remove. I'm removing the, let me do it because I have created the policies with account admin. Let me go ahead and unset the masking policy. Let me go ahead and unset the masking policy at a row level as well. You can also apply this masking policy with a condition. We call this as a conditional masking policy. So let's say I want to apply this masking policy with a condition that only if the customer ID is starting with P, then only this masking or this policy should be applicable. So I'm adding a condition, that is only the current role is super access and the customer ID is starting with P, then only we should be able to see the SSN information, else it has to be masked. It's a conditional masking policy. So let me go ahead and apply this. Once I apply this, I'm altering the table customer sales. I'm modifying the SSN. I'm going to set this masking policy. Okay. Let me recreate this masking policy and apply this masking policy. Once I apply, once if I'm going to query this customer sales, all the SSN information is masked because only the super access will be able to see the SSN information. Okay. And the substring has to be P to see the SSN information. All other roles, it will be masked. Let me go ahead, go to R1 access. All the SSN, all the SSN information will be masked. Only the super access, if I go to super access, only the super access will have access to SSN provided the customer information is starting with P. For rest of the customer information, it is masked. This is conditional masking. Let me go ahead and unset this masking policy. So to unset it, again I am going to go to the role using which I created this masking policy. So it is a on SSN column I'm unset. Good. Now next thing is we have talked about masking policy and conditional based masking policy. Now as I mentioned, some of us can have a requirement that you should not be even able to query that column. In that case, we make use of this projection policy. So let us see. Let me go ahead and create a projection policy where I am allowing super access. If the super access, if the current role is super access, then only that role should be able to see the column. Let me go ahead and create this policy. I'm going to go ahead and apply this policy on. Oh, there is one more policy I'm going to create. I'm also going to create a policy, projection policy on SSN. So I created on passport. Let me also create on SSN. Let me go ahead and apply this policy, you know, on my customer sales table. So one is going to be on passport and other is going to be on SSN. Let me go ahead and apply this policy. Once I apply this policy, any role would not be able to do this select star from the table except for whom you have granted. If you see, when I even as an account admin, when I try to query this information, it says that I will not be able to have SSN and passport information in my select statement. Please remove these columns from the list. In case if I remove those columns, I will be able to query the information.
Nice.
Who would be able to see the roles on which or for whom I have granted an access will be able to query. Even your global access is having a restriction on SSN and passport. Let me go to super access. I should be able to query it from super access.
Yep.
Let me go ahead and disable this policy. Okay. I'm going to unset these policies. Now the next thing what we are going to go ahead is the aggregation policy. So let me give or let me restrict the data, okay, for the sale amount, and I'm specifying the minimum group as 2. And when the current role is super access, I am not giving any aggregation constraint, but for rest of the roles, I am going to specify that minimum group as 2. So let us see how it works. I'm going to alter the table customer sales and apply this aggregation policy. And I applied this aggregation policy. Once I apply this aggregation policy, let me say if I'm doing a select star from the customer tables, I will not be able to do. Because if I do select star, I would be able to get the sale amount at a row level. So I don't want that to happen. That is why this aggregation policy will not allow you to query the information at a row level. Even if you wanted to find the maximum spend, you are going to get one record. So that is because the output is going to be one record, you will get a policy violation. But as soon as you do some of the spend, it will work because this aggregation policy is protecting the data at a row level. Similarly, if I go ahead and try finding what is the spend for region ID, I am able to get the sum for region 1 and region 3, but not for region 2. The reason I did not get for region 2 was there is only one record in region 2.
Oh, okay.
And I have specified my minimum group to be 3. Test this. I am going to add one more, let's say, I'm going to add one more, let's say region 4. Let me go ahead and insert the data into region 4. Now, how this data changes is for region 2 and region 4, the region ID will be null, but there will be a some spend some aggregation. Let us test it because it aggregates two records together. I don't have a PAN ID. It is SSN. Let us check. Let me go ahead and query what information I get. See, now I am going to get the sum of the single records. So region 2 and region 4 aggregation I will get. But as
Gotcha.
soon as I go ahead and delete, again, I will not get an aggregation. Okay, I need to remove this policy. Let me. This policy is in enforce. Let me go ahead and remove this policy. Once you unset the similar queries, if I go ahead and run, I will be able to get the data at region 3 and region 4.
Yep.
All this we can enable using tags as well. Let's say I'm going to create a tag for PII and PHI data. I'm creating a tag called PP info. I'm altering this table customer sales and I'm altering SSN and column and setting this tag. Now I can create a masking policy. I'm creating a masking policy and I'm specifying system get tag on current column. If on the current column, if the tag is pp info and the value is PII, then I'm going to mask it. Let me go ahead and create this masking policy. Now, once I set this masking policy, when I go ahead and query, my SSN information will be masked because I have tagged this column with as PII information. So you can apply or you can manage your objects using tags, and at an enterprise level, you can have these policies set at using the tags. Let me go ahead and unset the masking. So you would have seen how easy is it to restrict the data at different grains and of your choice.
Fantastic.
I'm stopping the screen share.
Great. Satish, that
Okay.
was fantastic. Like as you said, so many organizations seem to try to over architect or come up with more complex ways to control because protecting your data is important. But what you showed are some pretty, I would say, pretty easy ways to really restrict and control um, how people access the data and using them in combination with each other. You should be able to meet all of your requirements for your organization.
Sure. True, true. All thanks to Snowflake
Yeah,
for
Snowflake. Yeah,
simplifying the complex things.
exactly. We love that's what we love many things about Snowflake. But I want to thank you again for going through this with us and for everybody that joined us. If somebody wanted to do that on their own, can they go to your blog or to your site that you showed earlier to
Uh,
see to do that?
yes, yes. So if they go to my Snowflake wiki, they should be able to. Let me share my screen.
Yeah, and we will also, so for everybody, I'm also going to put the links to that in the comments below here. So even you don't have to worry about sharing it, but let me just quickly share it one more time here. So there, your Snowflake wiki, and there you can see your blog and try to do this exercise on your own as well. But that, that was fantastic. So I'm going to bring our pretty faces back to the screen here. But yep. There's your blog. Fantastic. And again, thank you for joining us today, Satish. And that was a great exercise.
Thanks, Keith, for hosting me, and thanks everyone for joining. And hope you have a easy takeaway or which you can easily implement in your projects. Best of luck, everyone.
Absolutely. Bye, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Thank you all.